name is Sila Beck, and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. It is Friday evening, Friday afternoon, depending where you're on the world. For me, it's about Friday around 8ish when this goes out. How are you? I hope you're doing well. It's the video vault. We're going to open the video vault, and we're going to inspect one of the movies that fly out of it. We always have interesting movies that we look at, and we have differing opinions on. Who knows which way we could go today? I have a panel with me. I always have a panel with me to help traverse the dangers of the video vault. Firstly, let's start with somebody we normally start with that we normally finish with. But let's start with Father Miller. Father Miller, how are you?
I am doing
good. You're already on the other end of my of the boxes of all the people I have to click on.
Well, I don't know. I started out at the beginning.
You were here first today, yeah, because I screwed up. I told everybody 8 o'clock tonight we're recording, and it was 8 o'clock in Israel, but in England it was 6. So I was like, I made a mistake. So there you go.
It's only 12:30 here, so
there you go.
So I got the whole day ahead of me.
We are an international crew, that's where we are. And next in the video vault, we have a zone. We have a bit of a zone. We zone it off, and we wait to hear what goes on within that zone. We have an intrepid reporter in the zone. It is a Tardis zone. Noel, how are you? Good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, thank you very much. One of my favorite movies.
Really straight away, with no provocation.
No, I'm actually fantastic, man. I can't wait for this movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Hey, Father, nice to see you. So I'm looking forward to this. This be fantastic, and thanks for having me on again.
We're always thrilled and excited. I think maybe too much to have you on, but we're thrilled and excited. And we're also thrilled and excited. I would say I feel one or two warm splatterings of excitement for our next guest, because he's a being. He is a being, but he's a bit of a problem. We have discussed amongst ourselves what that problem may be. Many of us have theories. I'm sure we're going to converge at one point and just find out what the problem is. Problem being, how are you, sir?
Problematic. How are you?
Problematic. There you go. Glad we're all in character.
Oh yes, always.
And one final character to aid us on this little voyage of discovery of great video. We have royalty. We have royalty every week, and it is we are humbled. We are humbled by his role presence. It is. I'm waffling because I'm trying to think of what they call royalty in Game of Thrones. Is it not my liege? It's your grace. Yeah, your grace.
It doesn't matter what name you call me. It's absolutely. You can call me whatever you want.
I will call you that too, I guess. I was referring to Birmingham's own King of the Geeks, Dan Hadley's the Spacebook. How are you, sir?
Hello, everybody. Yes, time to get regal, everybody.
Time to get regal. It's Friday. It's a regal time. And the movie we're watching this week, the movie we have watched this week that I just finished watching about an hour ago, because I tried, that I started doing that as a mistake because I left it to the last minute, but it's really good. This is why I try and watch the movie the day that we record it, so it's fresh. The movie is, of course, I've got to find the right thing. The movie is, of course, Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg's wonderful Minority Report. So I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to this. My first impression of this movie, my impression of the movie after seeing it probably for the first time in about 10 years, and maybe probably more. It came out in 2002, 18 years old, doesn't show its age at all. It's still very sprightly youth. So my impression of the movie is this. This is what happens when you have incredibly talented people with decades of experience making a somewhat disposable movie, and it becomes utterly brilliant. And I think that's really the way that I look at this movie. It's the basic premise of it is there is a department of pre-crime, and they have 3 precognitive people who can detect when murder's about to happen. Only murder. That's the only crime they can detect if a murder's about to happen. And they will then send Tom Cruise and his intrepid band of rocket men in to swoop down and stop the murder before it's happening. It's a rollicking, pulse-pumping chase movie that you would expect from Tom Cruise of 2002, and he was expected on Tom Cruise in 2020. It's a rocking, pace-pounding chainsaw movie, but with a really interesting, I would say, kind of deep questions about the nature of reality, existence, and truth, and time and predestination, all wrapped into this wonderful, this wonderful little, a romp. I will say it's not a perfect movie. The pacing does go awry quite drastically. I think in the last 40 minutes, it's kind of like the although that when it goes right, it's still so good that you don't really notice. But it is. For me, it was kind of like the needle coming off the record, like, and something screeched to a halt. But other than that, I cannot really fault this in any way. So let's go through the panel. Let's start with you, Father Miller. What was your conclusion?
Well, yeah, like yourself, it's probably been about 10 years since I've seen this movie, and the thing I was just thinking was, we're almost halfway there. I think it takes place in 2054.
So, I thought you were saying in terms of being
well, we're only 30 years away from it.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that's one of the things that really is really strong in the movie. The science fiction in this movie is pretty much on the money. I think it's very, very believable. Yeah, it's like I think the biggest deal is the biggest changes in technology. You have cars that drive on walls, and you have everything is by identifies you by your eyes. Yeah, every commercial, everything, which has a real implications about privacy, which they look at pretty early on after the first chase sequence in the movie, where there is many chase sequences. No, you love this movie, so what on it?
Well, first of all, we might as well right. So Tom Cruise is a cop, and basically he loses his son and joins this pre-crime unit a few years later. Or his son is kidnapped, or he thinks his son is, isn't it? Yeah, his son was kidnapped or something, swimming pool. So crime has gone through the roof, and they're trying to figure out a way to solve the issue. So they come up with the pre-crime. They get these the triplets, I think they are, twin boys and a girl, and they've got these special powers, and they can see into the future. So this organization gets together, and they form this pre-crime, and Tom Cruise basically signs up for it, and he's their top man. And it's actually a very interesting concept, because the whole should you be arrested for a crime that you haven't committed but you're thinking of committing, because this basically, the whole premise of this movie is they're able to see the future. They're able to see if you're going to commit a murder, and they arrest you before you commit your murder, basically, but you still get sent down. So it's listen, I don't find anything wrong with this movie. I think the pacing is perfect. The only issue I have with it actually is Colin Farrell. For the simple fact is that they made him just the typical Irish fella. He kept kissing his cross all the time. What the hell?
Well, I think he American, didn't he?
He's talented, but he just, I don't know. He gets big roles.
So it was meant to be American, but his accent kept slipping. Yeah.
He did mention that he had Irish ancestry.
Yeah, he is Irish, right? But don't get Colin Farrell to do an American accent. Right? You've even heard
you know what? I can tell you, for a man that's good looking, and definitely in this film, I think this is his best looking film he's ever been in. I was like, wow.
I disagree with you. I think his best movie has been Phone Booth.
Oh, I love Phone Booth.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that. Peter Sutherland. Yes, I've seen that.
In Bruges is good as well.
In Bruges, I think that's his best movie.
That's his best movie, in my opinion. I think that's his best movie. But this movie, from start to finish, it just sucks you in. I've told you before we started, I've literally seen this movie about 1,500 times, and that's not a word of a lie. This is a movie I'd watch, and then I'd be back on straight away and watch it again. I had an obsession with this movie. Now, here's a little bit of a fun fact. I don't know how true it is, but at the time when this movie was released, there was rumors that Tom Cruise and Will Smith actually changed roles. The two movies were out at the same time, so you had iRobot and you had this. Apparently, Tom Cruise was originally supposed to do I, Robot, and Will Smith was supposed to do Minority Report. But then, I don't know how it happened, but they ended up swapping movies. So Will
if that happened, we would have had two good movies. I think. To be honest with you, I think Will Smith would have fitted fine in this, and I think with Steven Spielberg directing, I think Tom Cruise would have elevated iRobot a gazillion times over.
Yeah, but I'm actually glad Will Smith was in iRobot. I like that, and I'm glad that Tom Cruise was in this. I don't think this would have worked with Will Smith, to be honest with you. You needed someone like Tom that could play. I'm not saying Will Smith can't do emotion, but Tom Cruise, you can see through this journey, he's still haunted by his son. He's taken illegal drugs.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this movie. It has many, many layers. You have an interesting concept. You have this Twilight Zone-esque concept, which they then flesh out, and they do a lot of really good world building around it. But then you have like 2 or 3 really, really interesting layers of it, which just makes everything like orbit around each other so much better.
Now, Pre-Crime is about to go national. It's about to go nationwide. But so Colin Farrell's character is basically brought in to see the run-ins of Pre-Crime, to see how it goes. And as soon as he gets there, then that's when things start going.
Well, he's a skeptic, isn't he? Because he thinks it's way too perfect. So and humans are not perfect. So he wants to.
So he's there to basically see if there's any flaws in it. And Tom Cruise is to basically show him how they do things. And then you get a demonstration. And it is, I have to say, the very first time that you see the precogs do their work, the ball come down through the yoke, then you see the name, and then he's doing all the thing on the screen.
Yeah, I'd say the exposition in this movie.
This is everything about, I don't know what it is about this movie, but I just love it. It's up there as one of the best sci-fi movies of all time, to be quite honest.
Okay, high praise indeed. Problem being, what's your thoughts? Overview.
I think it was very much a product of its time. It was coming on sort of on the heels of Gattaca and The Matrix. So this was like 20th Century Fox's kind of vehicle for Cruise.
Yeah.
I believe originally it was intended to be a sequel, or they were going to write it in the way that it was going to be a sequel to Total Recall, which is of Philip K. Dick as well, who also created the story behind Blade Runner and all of these classic science fiction stories. It's a very slick, very believable film. It's set in the not too distant future, so you can see already. I mean, we've already got the technology where we can do the hand gesture things, and you know, it's really quite scary how close we are to.
Well, you know, I think the thing they predicted really, really accurately was how technology will deprive you of privacy.
Yeah, free will. Yeah, I think that's the key message in this is you know how are our lives controlled by fate? Is it really fate, or is it really a series of chance events?
Yeah,
and this is what the original story explored. You know, like the Minority Report was the minority of one out of the 3 precogs, who exposes that the system is not correct, because they have different versions of what's going on. That's why in this film you've got, you know, the female precogs recollections of this murder, this drowning, which starts the whole rabbit hole, is missing. So and obviously this goes back to, you know, someone within the system who doesn't want that exposed, because it will bring the whole thing crashing down. So it's a big coup, really, that's going on, that will imprison everybody in a fatalistic kind of reality, and depriving people of their free will. It's got a kind of elements of Ghost in the Shell and that kind of thing. It's quite a science fiction-y trope, really.
Yeah.
But it's done in a very, very slick and very believable way.
Very
the original character of Alderton is supposed to be like a man in his 50s, you know. So it's quite a departure from the book, but that's not unusual for Philip K. Dick
Right. I mean, listen, Andrew, Blade Runner is nothing like.
Exactly.
I mean, even the stuff that Tom Cruise's character goes through in this movie is like, you know, his private story, and then, you know, you get the flashbacks, and then all the stuff he actually has to go through, which you will talk about later on. I won't bounce ahead, but all the stuff he actually basically has to go through to try take down this system that he's so much. And this is the thing we have to get across in this movie. Tom Cruise's character is 100% behind this system, right? He believes if he had to use this system when his son was basically kidnapped, that he would have basically found his son his son would never have been kidnapped in the first place. So I mean, you can see that's his motivation of joining this. He has he has another motive behind it. You know, that's why he joined pre-crime. Because he blamed himself for his son, because he literally just turned his back for a second.
Right. Wait till
it would have been interesting to see how they would have made this a sequel to Total Recall, but I'm glad that they didn't.
I'm guessing they would have said it in the same world as Total Recall, not would have
been. On Mars.
I think that's probably what they would have done. Dan, what is it? Now we've pretty much completed talking about the movie. What's your review of it?
I think that's interesting what you were saying about Total Recall, because they tried to sequel Total Recall several times, didn't they?
Yeah.
With other Philip K. Dick stories, they kept trying to do it between. They really wanted to put Arnold Schwarzenegger's Quaid literally into other films in Dick's bibliography. And just to return to that well a little, looking at Minority Report, I haven't seen this pretty much since it came out, maybe a year after it came out, so it's like 17, 18 years. I remember that I liked it, so I've maybe seen it twice before. I remember that I really liked it, but I'm also quite mindful of the fact I've never been back to it, and I was wondering why, because this is, I wish I could be as enthusiastic as, that was really, to hear Noel gushing about it was great. And all your comments too, Sophie, I agree with all of them, everything everybody said. I think this is I think you forget, don't you, that although this is, I don't want to use the word dated, but problem being, it is a product of its time. I think science fiction has moved on, movies have moved on, but not necessarily for the better. I think this reminds you how sturdy.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah,
I was thinking how relaxing and pleasant it is just to have somebody tell me a story without having
to took the words right out of my mouth. They roll out their story and invite you in. It's built on a completely sturdy base. The entire world, it's very vividly created. We know whether you think it's feasible to whatever degree or not. It doesn't matter. The fact is that they believe in this world and they sell you on it with absolute conviction. Everybody acting in it is right on the money. There's nobody hamming it up at all. Nobody thinks it's their movie to be sort of taken. It's very considered and very nailed down.
Exactly. This is what I was thinking when I was doing the rewatch of this was exactly that. It's something which
and that can't have come from Dick, because as you said, problem being this is almost certainly nothing like the short story. It's similar. I mean, it's a slightly different approach. But I mean, what I totally agree with you about is that rather than moralizing at you, it engages you in a moral quandary.
Yeah,
so you're stuck with this choice
because the script is so good, and they take time. There are some characters in this. I mean, they take the time to develop the characters. Having said that, I do have a few issues with this. And not so much issues, actually. That's wrong. But I think there are things about it that are a pity. I think they could have spent even longer developing some of the characters, because I felt this film. This is probably. I think I say this every week. I did feel this film was too long. And for me,
I feel like it though.
Half hour. I think about half hour too long. I agree with
the first half of the film. I was desperate for it to move up a gear, and I think that. But looking back, I think that's also because of the time that it was produced in too. This and the fact that it's virtually monochromatic. I mean, look at that. Apart from a bit of colour in Colin's cheeks, you would think that it was shot.
This is another stylistic choice that was a product of its time. If you look at The Matrix, it's got that kind of very similar,
exactly.
very green.
Equilibrium was another. All those films, and after a time, and I watched all of those because it was good, good solid sci-fi. Continually coming at you, but I did sort of the spell wore off on me a little. I think that could be why I've never really revisited any of them, and I don't think it's anything against any individual film. I think that look got quite old quite quickly.
True.
And keeping all the characters kind of isolated, and very few people sit down and have a conversation in this. I know this is all very deliberate, but it just doesn't work quite so well for me. And so when it all got a bit more frantic in the last half and a bit less predictable. I mean, it's one of those movies where he ends up in the hotel room and it all comes together with those pictures on the bed. The fact that I should have seen that coming. I'd completely forgotten about every twist and turn of this film. I should have seen that coming. But the fact that this film did pull me in eventually again, and I never stopped to think about that, it either means I'm really quite thick, or it's a good movie and it's a good screenplay that was busying you looking and thinking about other things because of the moral complexities of it all, and because of I think it was offered. There's nothing mawkish about this film, despite the loss of the lead character, and it's played with sincerity. But I'd been a lot more interested to see Will Smith in this film than Tom Cruise, though, because I think this is why I haven't gone back to it. I think because we'd seen Tom Cruise give this performance before this, and we've seen him give it several times since, and I think that's why that could be why this film gets a little forgotten, even in Steven Spielberg's canon. And it's a pity because there's a lot of things in this that visually still look great that I've still never seen anywhere else. And I think my issue with it is Tom Cruise, and he's as good as ever. It's a great performance that he gives, but he does exactly what you would expect Tom Cruise to do: loads of running, loads of frowning.
I don't think it's just Tom Cruise is doing that. I think Steven Spielberg's doing that. I think everybody's doing it. I think everybody's doing really solid, excellent, performance of their job.
It is a formula. What we forget is. At the time, this was a formula that was in the midst of being created. So,
right, like for me, this was a product of the sausage factory, right? It was just like it was time to go and make the donuts. This is just we're making this story now. They weren't doing something that they thought would be world shaking. They was like, well, this is what we're doing. And this was a movie. They had the movie beforehand was planned. The next one was planned. This is their job. They're doing this right now, right? And they did it. Everybody did it well. It actually struck me as like one of those old movies you see on Sundays. Those black and white movies, which are really great movies, but
with Art Deco production design and things like that. And I was just thinking about what you say about Spielberg, because although we've just been talking about the trends of the time, knowing Steven Spielberg, he'd probably been wanting to make this film for between 5 and 7 years, because he always goes to literature, doesn't he? He's very both older literature and I believe he reads a lot as well, like new writers. And so he probably wanted to make it for quite some time. I'll have to go and look into the background of it because it is a fascinating film, and I really, really rate this movie. It's just I find it difficult to get excited about.
There's an actual TV show. They did a Minority Report.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
I don't remember that.
Netflix did it a few years back now. I don't know how long it lasted. I haven't watched
it. It was like a one-season wonder.
They do actually have a Minority Report TV show.
Yeah, what's that?
I've never seen it.
2015. 2015, and it looked like it lasted 10 episodes.
Yeah, what's that? I'm going to pull up the poster for you.
Yeah, of course, they did that. If it was a while, but apparently people that had watched it and the reviews that I'd seen, they were very mixed. So
I can imagine.
Didn't they do the same with Total Recall? There was Total Recall 2070 years ago.
They started doing a lot of that because they also did what was that movie that they did a cop show with, and they what's the movie? And they sacked your man. Lethal Weapon. They did Lethal Weapon as well.
Oh yeah, well I love that. Yeah, that lasted for 3 years.
This is the TV show.
Yeah, that's the TV show.
And you know what? Again, it's basically the same thing, but the quality of the people working on it is far lower. This is like, this is what the movie could have gone either way. And I just think they had like far, we get people at the top of the game.
Well, you take a good idea and you stretch it too thin. It's not a formula for success.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch this TV show, because as Dan can tell, and he said, I love this movie. And I know people have their problems with it. And I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't have problems. It does. But because I think the story is fantastic, there's so many different things going on. I can overlook all that because, But that's why I wouldn't watch the TV show.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the idea of turning a successful film into I'm talking about when you're turning a successful movie franchise into a TV franchise. It doesn't always transfer.
Like MASH, and is there any other show that got?
They did 12 Monkeys as well.
But problem being, what you I think the reason why they keep doing this with Philip K. Dick stuff, why they keep thinking, because the world is so convincing and so complete, either the politics of it or the science of it, it seems like a complete world. I think there must be some other stories to tell.
Yeah, but they're right.
But
the formula is it's a cop show. That's what they want to turn it into another cop show, and it's like.
They K-Dick like window dressing. Yeah. So like the reason I think this works is the story is good. The special effects are for me they are totally solid. I haven't seen science fiction like this in live action, and the sort of thing I've always wanted to see. Fine, let's talk about the plot a little bit, we'll go through it. So it starts off with a lot of exposition done very well. Right, so you get this. Colin Farrell's gone this tour of pre-crime. It's about to go national, and they get a pre-crime alert, a Red Bull. So one of the really clever things in this to make sure this can't be forged. When somebody's name is picked out about to be killed, is carved into a piece of wood because that's got a unique grain and it can't be forged. I really love that, and the closer the murder is, the redder the ball is. So most crimes now, most murders are Red Bulls because when you premeditate a murder, you get caught. It works so effectively. So you basically see a guy. He sees his wife. He expects his wife having an affair. Goes home, catches her, and is about to murder her. Back at the thing, you get Tom Cruise with his hands looking at the computer trying work out where it is. They get there in the nick of time. Tom Cruise runs, lots of chasing. Tom Cruise running is just what Tom Cruise does. Tom Cruise runs very, very, very well. Doesn't matter what he's running after.
Not like Jodie Whittaker.
What?
Not like Jodie Whittaker.
Not like Jodie Whittaker. Not like Jodie Whittaker. Tom Cruise can really run. Yeah. So and he gets it. And so then we get a little bit of the world building, find out how this pre-crime works. And there was this new designer drug in must be the 2030s, 2040s, I think 2030s, that created slightly mutated children, or the people who took it, and those mutated children had the ability to see murders in the future. Murders, they can able to pick up the emotional resonance of a murder. Most of his kids died. They managed to harness 3 of them into being the thing that drives the pre-crime. And then we get a little backstory into Tom Cruise, who seems like this very respectable leader of the organization of the police. And then you find out he's a total he's a bit of a degenerate. His life is completely on the rails. He goes and buys these drugs. So again, great. I just love the design, the product design, the futuristic product design, and everything is so freaking spot on, absolutely spot on. And what he's doing is he's watching a video of his home videos of his son, of his wife. His son is lost. His wife is divorced from, and he makes them. And he's got this 3D technology and the drug with it. I think enhances it completely. So you get to see he's like how damaged he is, right? And once you got all that exposition out the way, the movie starts. They get a Red Bull, it was not a Red Bull. So a thing happens, and he's going through it. There's witnesses looking at him as it's all part of the crime, the legal part of it. And he sees that he's the murderer, right? And he's destined to murder somebody in 36 hours. He has no idea who he is or why he'll do it. And the tagline for this movie is everybody runs. Yeah, everybody runs. So does anybody have anything to say on the basic setup of this movie? It takes about half an hour. Let's go through that. Anybody has anything they want to add? Father Miller.
Well, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but the thing that I got a kick out of was when, like how the news updates automatically. The newspaper will change the front story. But then
right onto your paper.
I don't know if you saw, but they had him on Cops, which in America has been banned.
His eyes are being replaced. That's absolutely correct. Again, listen, science fiction is always about the world, the world at the time. It's never about the future. It's always about the world at the time, which this movie does. But again, for me, this movie, I mean, it hasn't aged in that it hasn't.
It doesn't feel like it's 20 years old.
Well, 20.
It doesn't. It does not feel like it.
Crazy,
I think in the last 5 to maybe even 7 years, media has gone backwards. Media has, but like society, now we're talking about people's skin color. Where back in 2002, nobody spoke about anybody's skin color. It was not a big deal that his second in command was black, or there's a woman who's the best pilot in there. It didn't matter, and it wasn't part of anything.
That brings up a deadly point about the Cops thing, but also as well, what I noticed in the movies as well is when Tom Cruise's character is basically on the run, the advertisements for Gap and all of these different clothing, they change because of what he has bought in the past, so they're able to predict kind of
right, exactly.
Well, it's like Amazon today. Amazon today does that, doesn't it? It's already got stuff ready to go that it predicts you're going to buy. I mean, it's already happening.
And remember, everybody is scanned as well. The eyes are scanned as well when they're walking around. So there is a bit of that kind of thing going on where, as we were talking about people's privacy, and this movie does kind of show you when technology goes too far.
But it does it in an interesting way. It doesn't hit you over the head with it. It doesn't even talk about it. You just see it happening in the background, and it makes you think. Which is the way to do these things, which is the way to have these conversations, right? Mm-hmm. So I remember watching the makings of on when I got the DVD of this when it came out. And what they did was they had a summit for like about a weekend or a week where they just took everybody away to like some nice retreat somewhere. And they tried to work out what the technology would be of 2050, 2060, and how to show it. So one of the clever things they did is they set it in Washington because all the old town, all the monuments would stay exactly the same. Right, all that there will stay there, and only as you got further outside of Washington, you would get like the newer buildings and stuff and things like that. But they really thought out like the ident technology, which they called EYED, right, which is just such an important part of that society, as with like the maglev road where cars can go on on the side of buildings, which was again that was part of the first. The first great chase sequence. So Tom Cruise is on the run. Everybody runs, and this is on the screen. We have.
That's interesting because originally it was set in New York, isn't it?
Oh, really? So it was a good moving it to Washington for that very reason.
A lot more interesting.
This was all a trial before it went nationwide, so that's why Farrell's basically sent in because there were people still in government that didn't trust this and they wanted the final report before it actually went national. And then, as I said, stuff starts to happen. But the supporting cast in this as well has to be mentioned because we do have Colin Farrell. We have Max Van Snowden as well. That's his name, isn't it? Max Van Snowden.
Max von Snowden.
Yeah, him. He's actually
who died this year? I didn't find out he died in March.
Yeah,
I love that actor. He's in so many good things.
Right.
And with the actor I have on screen right now, he's
number 2. Yeah, he's very good in this movie as well. The supporting cast is great, except for Colin Farrell, in my opinion.
Samantha Morton also excellent as one of the precogs. So anyway, Tom Cruise is on the run. We have an incredible chase sequence as his former team who was in charge of.
You haven't explained why he's on the run.
He's on. We've done that already, haven't we?
No, you didn't. You haven't. You didn't even explain that.
There's a thing I just have to say where he tells
they come up with pre-crime. You skipped on.
I explained all that. He's going through. He gets. They get a ball saying this is after the first one. they get a ball, and it's like you see the victim. He has no idea it is, and he's going through the memories, and he sees that he's the murderer, right? That we spoke about that. We didn't
go through the bit where he's the scene with the drowning. You got the.
Oh, you're right. I did miss that.
Because that's where it all starts off. Because it starts off with this mystery. Because
the precog grabs him by the arm.
Woman, and it's all about. This is what starts the whole kind of worms.
Right. Okay. So what happens is because Colin Farrell wants to go in and see the precogs, and the Tom Cruise isn't happy about it at all, right? Because the police are not allowed to go in there because then there could be claims of corruption, right? As he could say they implanted so whatever. So he's in there under sufferance, and then it's one of there's a few Hollywoody things happening that doesn't really make sense. That they go out the room and he's on his own in there after he said, "I'm not supposed to be in here under any circumstances." He's on his own in there. The main precog wakes up and grabs him and says, "Can you see? Can you see?" And she shows him on their big ceiling TVs that of a murder that happened several years ago that he has no idea about, and that's when everything goes sideways. Because the very next day he gets accused of a pre-crime.
Because there's a brilliant scene with the guy in the wheelchair as well, who discovers that whole the female's precog memory of the event or precognition has been taken away.
Right.
It's missing.
I love that actor, by the way. He's
really good scene.
Yeah, I
he's a great. He's done a bunch of stuff. He was in the Ballad of Walton. The Coen Brothers movies that was Netflix earlier in the year. It was also the only good thing I think from the HBO Watchmen series. Yeah, he was the Miramar guy. Great actor. You only saw him. Yeah, you're absolutely so fine. So, did I miss anything else out? I think we're up to date.
Well, he goes to visit the guy who created the pre-crime thing, didn't he?
Well, that's what he does next when he's on the run. First, he jumps out of cars and jumps over cars and jumps into buildings and runs, and so then he makes it to the woman who invented the thing, who has this funky house in the middle of nowhere with plants that will like grab you and sting you and has a very good defense.
That was weird. That was a little sideways look at the world of the future. We only get that sort of fragment of it, don't we? That really sort of weird character that the old woman, snogs him.
Yeah, this is also definitely done. That all the exposition in it, and it's a lot of exposition. It's just you don't even notice it. They just do it very, very smoothly, right? That's where Tom Cruise finds out that if there is a minority report is when you have these three precogs, if one of them sees it differently, it's stored in that memory of the.
Yeah. Also, it's an echo as well, and some of the echoes they look the same, but then Tom Cruise's character finds it that they're slightly different. And then that's what opens up the whole can of worms. And he realizes then that this system mightn't actually be perfect. So he's lost that safety buffer as well, because he believes in pre-crime. You know, find out that there might be something wrong with it. It really does affect him. He's questioning everything that he's done for the last few years.
Right. Well, the way they explain that is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because Tom Cruise rolls this ball along a table, right? And it rolls around. It's about to fall off, and Colin Farrell catches it. So he says, "So why'd you catch it?" He says, "Because it was going to fall." He says, "But it didn't fall. You caught it. So even though you caught it, it was still going to fall." That's how he justified. And it's a good argument. It's a very strong argument, right?
It is.
Up until 2 hours later, then it's not such a good argument. So he has no idea who he's accused of killing, and he's on the run. So he goes to find the woman who made a pre-crime. She says he has to go back to pre-crime to kidnap the woman from the big gloopy
tank. Yeah, she has to. Remember, she has the genetically engineered plant. See, you're leaving out loads. He breaks into a woman. Come on, and Put the bleeding photograph of where he goes into a woman's house. Come on.
Wait, which one? Where am I up to? What
The scientist, the one that invents pre-crime, he goes to her, he breaks into our house. So when he breaks into our house, one of our genetically engineered plants grabs him, and then he's actually choking to death. And she gives him a solution that actually saves his life. You have to leave it all there out.
Well, no, I don't think it choked him. I think it stung him with like some poison. It poisoned him, and she gave him.
And he was hard to breathe, and he was going to die unless she gave him the antidote. She tells him what's going to happen, and all his arms are going to puff up, and his face is going to do this. He loses his voice. You're skipping now.
I see that. I got that mixed up with Star Trek 2009.
I don't know about you, Father Christopher, but I missed all this banter when Noel wasn't on last week.
I'm sorry about last week, folks. It was just a link that I got, and it does sometimes happen. It just wouldn't work for me.
Did you say?
I wasn't in my mind. I actually got. I made sure I was up early so I could actually watch the movie and be 2 hours ahead of time for when the thing started. Went to press play, and the link doesn't work.
You see that?
Next Rabbi,
I had to.
Rabbi gets back to me at 6 o'clock, so it's too late. I text Lee straight away. Lee is like, I'm so sorry you can't make it. And I'm like, yeah, you are. He's gonna love it.
We're sorry. What are you talking about?
I think we behaved.
Good Lord, did you see how implicated I was then?
Oh,
God.
I still
Paranoid.
haven't watched the movie, but I am going to watch it. But I have to say, it looked like you all enjoyed it anyway. So
That was amazing. Watch it.
Yeah, I am. So it's great when we actually all agree on the movie, isn't it?
I think we're up there with this one. So we're getting to my favorite part of this movie, which is a weird favorite part. Before he goes in and has to kidnap Samantha Morton, he has to go and get his eyes changed, right? I freaking love that thing. So he's a dodgy backstreet doctor who apparently he arrested for malpractice many years ago, which he tells him just as he's going under. And you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen to him, right? And
he's played by that actor that plays the fella that was in Armageddon, that's riding the rocket.
From Armageddon. I love that character.
He's bleeding fantastic as the doctor in that. And he puts a sandwich and milk in the fridge for him because he's supposed to eat it after a certain amount of hours. And he gives him pulley ropes to get around the apartment. And when he goes to the fridge, he actually picks up the rotten sandwich and the raw milk.
That was so. There is a lot of like gross out stuff, just like gross out stuff there for no real reason other than it's kind of fun.
Anything to do with eyeballs, and I like whoa.
And needles and eyes, forget it. You know?
I love his reasons why he wants to keep his eyes that he has taken out. He says, "Well, what do you want to keep them for? You can't resell them." He's like, "Yeah, no, they were. It was a gift from my mother."
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, I love that. Actually, that's a great line.
Great line. It's a really clever line. So he can't take the bandages off his eyes for 12 hours, but the police come to find him. And again, you really see how privacy has eroded in this world. It's really subtle in the background. You have these really cool little
like the spiders at the end of the world in Doctor Who. They have those little spiders and they send them there like that.
I was wondering if it was just me that was no. They've even got the same sound effect. Russell T Davies and I know Brian Hitch did a lot of the concept work, but they must have seen this movie and taken a lot of it on board because I thought the precogs they reminded me of Martha Cope's character from Bad Wolf and The Part of the Ways. The controller.
Now you think about it. Yeah. Well, this movie, the production of this movie took over the production of a adaptation of Fahrenheit 451. But I'm pretty sure these little robot things were the dogs from Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah. This whole scene is fantastic because it gives you the camera kind of pans over the building. And you can see people are actually having sex when the spiders go in and when they beam the light into their eye. But it does go to show you you know, what the future world could look like. And I'm sorry, I don't want any part of that.
Well, it's kind of like 1984, isn't it? You know, thought crime and all that kind of stuff.
Track and trace everywhere, imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Britain right now is the most surveilled country in the world, isn't it?
We were before the beer bug.
So I guess.
Although they've now got facial recognition cameras. Not only facial recognition cameras, but they can actually tell who people are by the way they walk.
Wow.
So,
actually, that's the Israeli company. They
I actually did.
Recognition. It's the freakiest thing. I know. I met the guy working on it. It can tell by they can track you by the way that you walk.
I did the test for it. I was involved in the test. They had to walk around this sort of large room and into these sort of. Bit like a showroom, you know, you've got all these different rooms and doorways and things. So you're walking in and out, and they tell you to change the way you walk. And so it picks up on if you're trying to disguise the way you walk. So it can still tell it's you.
It's very clever. It's very, very freaky. Yeah. Again, how technology is stripping us of privacy. And back in 2002, this was all fantasy, right?
Yeah.
We didn't realize that the way Facebook was making money was by selling by selling us, essentially, our viewing. Yeah. That's how they make money. We are their product that they sell, right? And they made it, and the way it happens is they make it an indispensable part of your life, which is what the ident technology is. It's an indispensable part of your life because, as you said, you had that great scene.
Like mobile phones of the 20th century.
Well, I could see a line between what we're presented here, which it takes place about 30 years from now, doesn't it? And, you know, talking about Brave New World, but watching that a few weeks ago, how this could be the early steps of what the world and personal privacy and what we voluntarily sort of relinquish for what we believe is the better is the betterment of the human race may not be ultimately, because obviously as you quite rightly said, this is so that people don't kill other people. Nobody wants people to kill other people. It's a really bad thing to do. And
well, this was an allegory for the Cold War at the time when it was written in the 1950s. Yeah,
it's all been over about 30 years by the time this was made. I didn't realize the book. So look, the still like I pulled up right now, it shows you this whole thing. Because after he has his eyes changed, he walks into a gap. Noel mentioned this before. Walks into a gap, and the robo assistant, the non-human assistant, who's like just a computer graphic, says, "Oh, hi, Mr. Fukunaga. How's those? Has got your history," and it's like that's really convenient and really scary.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like when he goes to buy drugs at the beginning, the drug dealer has actually had his eyes removed, right? So he can't be traced, which I guess is your only option if you want, like, it could be
lay low. Yeah, if you
right.
take your eyeballs out and get some black market eyes.
Right. I can again the technology in this is so believable for like 30 years from now. It seems incredibly believable. I can totally see all this happening, right? And all this being achieved. I'm sure they're working on it now. Fine. So anyway, he's got his new eyes. He survives the scan without going blind, and now he goes back to recall, not to recall, to minority the pre-crime. What? Prequel.
Pre-crime headquarters. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back there. To kidnap the precock to find his minority report to prove he's completely innocent, right? And then he has this another great little bit where the doctor gives him this thing he jabs into under his chin and makes Tom Cruise look old, which is the only thing that could ever make Tom Cruise look old. Because I ask you, he looks pretty much identical today, doesn't he? Do you see a difference? I really like. He looks a bit
in this. I was amazed how young he looked. Amazed.
He looked young in the first Mission Impossible. If you look at that, he looks really young. But this, he looks like about 5 years younger.
He doesn't look any different. His hair is obviously a lot different now, but Tom Cruise doesn't age. That's the thing about this man. And
it'll be a sudden thing. It will just
still doing his own stunts to this day. He's 52 years of age. Like, that's why he's the highest paid movie star in the world. he still
I would
doesn't.
say he's the last movie star.
There's probably a basement at the. There's probably a basement at the HQ for the. The cult he belongs to. And like, there's a painting of Tom Cruise. It's just aging.
But do you not think he's a? You don't think he's a superstar, Rabbi? No.
No, I do. No, I think he's the last movie star.
Yeah.
He's the last person that can make people go and see movies because him. Like, if it's a Tom Cruise movie, I'm like, yeah, okay, because he delivers every freaking night. That last Mission Impossible movie, freaking awesome. I was on the edge of my.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard good things. He actually broke his foot in that movie.
Yeah,
he was jumping across 2 buildings, and when he jumped across, obviously he had the rope on him. But when he jumped across, he misjudged it, and his actual ankle hit off the side of the building. You can actually hear the crunch. And then he hobbles off. He continues to shoot like he hobbles across.
Listen, again, what I always said is, if you're attractive, charismatic, and driven,
Can I just say, like, I'm going to name drop again. We did. We were filming The Mummy, which Tom Cruise was directing and starring in, and he was there obviously on the day, and I was right in front of him, and he had his hand on my shoulder. I was like, "Oh, Tom!"
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, "Off you go." No, he was really, really nice to us. And I heard loads of horror stories about him on set. But he was really, really lovely to us.
He just has weird religious beliefs, I'm not going to knock anybody for having being in a cult or anything like that. He seems to be a nice person. I don't believe
it was lovely.
You're the third person I've spoken to who has met this man in one of them actually. He was an extra as well, but I can't remember the exact context of that. And it's always a similar story. How he was just a pretty much a normal guy. Like a time for people. It's fascinating, isn't it? How and yet it's
he really did care about us.
Okay,
that's the.
Okay, this is an absolute true story. In my local, I used to live in Bushy. I used to live in Bushy Heath when I lived in London. The local Blockbusters there, right? He lived near me. It was in Boreham Wood, which is like about 10 minutes away. The local Blockbuster there wouldn't let him take out a movie because he didn't have ID on him. And he pulled out a video, like a movie cover, saying, "Look, it's me!" So listen, if you're a young whippersnapper, you will remember the days of if you went there without your card and without ID, forget it. It didn't matter if you're Tom Cruise. It didn't matter if you're the Queen. You ain't getting a movie.
Imagine him and walking in with no ID, and you just go over to one of the shelves and pick up one of your movies.
That's exactly what happened. And that's my local video store, and I know the manager there. And yeah, I believe that story completely.
I keep trying to think of other people who could be the last great movie star. And you're right. I think there's been people who have approached that. I think for a fair while, Will Smith couldn't put a foot wrong, but something happened with Will Smith. I'm not sure what it is. I think the spell around him kind of broken, and there's been several other people since, to a lesser extent, who just haven't been. I think it's
his crazy kids, which made him look.
It could be. I think it could be. Yeah. Oh, that misses of it.
The last great movie star, Bruce Willis's star has waned. You go back to that era.
He's made too much shit.
He's the
Arnie, another one.
And remember, we've got Top Gun 2 Maverick to come out.
And that looks like that's going to be the best movie of the year. I mean, I was up for that. And for one.
He's still making movies, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. Apparently, he's doing a second part of that. Do you remember that movie that he did with the English board, where he keeps going back?
Yes, they are. Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. I love that.
They're making two.
Now, there was talk for years, but now it's actually happening. So there's a part 2 happening.
Yeah,
they're making 2 more Mission Impossible films back to back as well with the same director.
Yeah. And I bet they're both going to be great as well. I love those Mission Impossible movies.
I think the franchise has changed since Mission Impossible 5. He's really upped the game since Mission Impossible 4.
And Brie Larson, He does his own stunts, okay? That's what doing your own stunts
How are
means.
you comparing Brie Larson to Tom Cruise? Yeah.
Well, she says she does her own stunts. It's like, what stunts did you do?
If he's the last male movie star, last one of these kind, who's the last female? Who would be the?
Not Brie Larson.
Scarlett Johansson came close, but not her. Jennifer Lawrence was it for a little bit, but not her anymore.
Uma Thurman.
Jessica Lange.
I like that. Yeah. I can't remember the last thing I saw.
What about Jessica Lange? Or didn't she?
Jessica Lange, amazing.
It was after her.
It's different with women, isn't it? Because sadly, it's different with women because as people quite rightly say, after 35, the lead roles just do evaporate for them.
Sigourney Weaver.
I'd make a case for the actress that has the most Oscars, which would be Meryl Streep. She's still doing movies, actually.
Yeah, but there'll be movie stars after her. So we're saying, who is the last one? It's a good question.
Well, it is very hard to, but with the men, it's Tom Cruise because Bruce Willis doesn't do, even Nicolas Cage, even Tom, and it's sad to even say this, but I'd have to say even Tom Hanks now stars waning a little bit. His last movie,
there's a Tom Hanks movie, which I have, looks like it's Tom Hanks, Stephen Graham. I love Stephen Graham, right? It's a war movie. It's on Apple Plus. I have it. It looks fantastic. I haven't watched it. It's been out for months. I just, you know what? It doesn't have the same sheen as going to the cinema. No matter how good it is, it just doesn't have. If they have Wonder Woman, they release it at home. It doesn't have the same sheen. I don't know what.
I think these film companies are in serious trouble.
Listen, Mulan.
To be honest, I do not want to watch Wonder Woman 1985.
I don't either.
I want to watch it on a big screen.
Okay, she was swinging on she's got that lasso and she's swinging on lightning. And I was so in for that.
Yeah. And I'm still going to maintain that I prefer the Force trailer. I'm going to maintain that I love the Force trailer over the second trailer. I think the second trailer made me worried about this movie.
The second trailer was apparently after J.J. Abrams got his hands on it and started the film.
So it doesn't, being honest, the Force tone, I even said it, the tonal shift of the both trailers, watch both trailers back to back, and I guarantee you will say the Force trailer makes you excited, the second trailer fills you with dread. I'm telling you, this movie I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, going to predict it, this movie is going to bomb because JJ got his hands on it.
I think Gal Gadot is within say 2 or 3 really good decisions of becoming a proper movie star.
You know what? She wants to tell good stories, and she doesn't have to say that. Look, I'm a woman. I'm equal to people. I can do anything, man. Because she can do anything, man.
Classy, very classy.
It's not an issue. Again, with this movie, having female characters being stunning and brave wasn't an issue. It's just when they make it an issue, it falls off the edge. Fine, let's go back to the movie, right? Okay.
I'll just say that Gina, what's her face?
Davis?
Gina Carano should be a massive megastar.
Ah, well, yeah. Much respect, Gina.
She's not a good enough actress. I don't think she's a very good actress at all. She looks great on screen, but
don't care.
She's put in there because she was an MMA fighter and she can kick ass, and I'm fine with that. But the way she has handled herself on Twitter, she should be commended.
Yeah, I agree. Samantha Morton, while she's still on, guys, why hasn't she had a bigger career? Do you think, or is it just did she have the career that she wants?
I think she had the career.
She did a lot of Irish movies. Believe it or not, she did a movie called I think it was something about America, where our family moves to Brooklyn and our kids. Like, she keeps having kids and they keep dying. They live in a poor area.
Yeah,
and she was in that one. Is it Angela's Ashes? Not Angela's Ashes. Is it Angela's Ashes? Where she lives in Ireland, and our kids, our husband fucks off to England and basically leaves her with our kids, and she ends up sleeping with our bloody her brother-in-law or something, just so she's not poor and all of this, and she keeps having kids, and it's another harrowing movie, but it's about the Irish famine. It's about when like people were struggling for food and stuff and had to beg. Yeah, I think it is called Angela. Is it Angela's Ashes? I think it is.
She's so charismatic. She's so charismatic in this, and obviously she doesn't get many lines, but it's quite thankless role. She's great in it.
Okay, but you know what? Okay, my vote for the last genuine female movie star who will make you go to a movie and kept it for an entirety of her career as long as she wanted it. Angelina.
I knew you were going to say that.
She was the.
I think people have gone off her because she's gone a bit strange.
She's not. No, her star is Wayne, but that she was the last one. It's like
I don't know if she's the last one.
Jennifer Lawrence was it for like
never a movie star. She was never a movie star.
Really made it.
One good movie. In one good movie with Denzel Washington, and that's the only reason why she was good in it, because she was with Denzel Washington in it, and it was called The Bone Collector, where she plays a cop. He plays a cop. And he had an accident, and he's in a bed.
Okay. The very nearly last female star who blew it up completely by being stupid was Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie was on track to be a bankable star who you will see a movie because she's in it, and then she blew it up with Birds of Prey. And I don't think she's coming back from that. I don't think because they can't get this like insanity out their head.
Yeah,
maybe after the next one, the Suicide Squad.
But she's playing Barbie next, isn't she? After Suicide Squad, she's playing Barbie.
What?
She's playing Barbie movie being made, and she's playing Barbie.
So anyway,
I think she'll be good in Suicide Squad too, because she actually has a good director. I think that Birds of Prey is nobody even talks about that, but I think they'll get her character right in Suicide Squad too. I don't think it's all her fault. She did come out with the rhetoric about her clothes. Look, that's what Harley Quinn wears, right? You're being paid millions of dollars to play this role. Put the bloody clothes on that you're asked to put on.
Get the hot pants on and shake your ass.
Honestly, listen, sex appeal is part of making movies. Tom Cruise is a good-looking guy. Yeah.
Well, that was why that was why Harley Quinn hit big on the cinema, because she was sexy and because Margot Robbie played her well. But it was for most people out there who saw that movie, that was their introduction to Harley Quinn. For better, it wasn't ours, but it was theirs, and it worked at the time. She was happy to take the money then. It was only a couple of years ago. She should have relinquished the part if it was a big problem. In my mind, I respect the principle of everything that she's saying, but she's saying one thing, doing another, and I don't understand that.
You're keeping the money. If you keep the money, shut up. That's basically right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Anyway, eventually Tom Cruise winds up in the room where the precog tells him that he's going to end up with this guy. Yeah. Before then, while he's sleeping from his surgery, we see how his son vanished, right? And it's just so harrowing. He's at the pool with him, and the son's like, "Oh, let me see how long I can hold my breath," and he gets him to hold his breath next. He's underwater holding his breath. He sees his watch drop into the water. He comes up. He was gone for like 10 seconds. Kids vanished, and then that like redefines his life. And I can see why he never got over it. There's no way you're going to get over that, especially for a policeman, somebody like Tom Cruise's character.
You felt it, even when I first watched this and I was growing up, you felt his pain. You genuinely felt his pain, because that is a horrible thing. Imagine, you're literally in the pool with your kids, and it's literally 10 seconds, Rob, but it is literally 10 seconds.
Well, this was before Amber Alerts happened, wasn't it? This was around the time we were just inventing Amber Alerts when we needed to, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that happened. That this kind of like kidnapping has either become so commonplace we don't think about it anymore, or has died down. I like to hope they've died down. I do think the old Amber Alert thing was a great idea. So anyway, he ends up in this hotel room, and there's all these pictures of his son, his kidnapped son, on the bed, and they're older. So he's older in the picture, and the guy's there, But it's very soon becomes apparent when the precog, Samantha Morton's like saying, you have a choice. Now you know the future, you have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's the incredible thing. At that moment, he does choose not to kill him, which is what he thought he was going to, and he chooses to arrest him. So really a moment of incredible personal strength. Yeah. Right? Which I just loved it with this movie.
But then when he does choose not to kill him, right? Then your man is like, kill me. Like he's egging him on to kill him. He says, they said that you were going to kill me, my family be looked after and all. And then he sees this, which is brilliant saying there. He sees, because he doesn't know who this person is behind on the poster. He actually thinks it's a real person. But then he starts to realize that he's the one that was going to pull the trigger. That's when he decides not to. But then he sees all the he sees the photographs. Your man is telling him, you have to shoot me, or my family won't be looked after. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then your man runs towards him, doesn't he? Grabs the gun and shoots himself then.
Yeah, you get me. But while Tom Cruise is holding it, Tom Cruise is totally screwed, right? Totally screwed at this point. Because, there's no way he's going to be able to prove his innocence. Right, so then
this movie, I really do. I'm glad you picked this movie. Okay,
I'm glad.
Love it.
Listen, I'm glad we got
noticed.
Listen, when I really do love a movie, as well now, because it's just. This is, and it is a product of its time, yes, right. But I just found
But that's not a negative thing. I said that in context of the type of films that were being released at the time. This came hot on the heels of the Matrix, and it was clearly a slated thing where this was what we were going to get for a while because of the success of the Matrix.
This was before we started seeing movies in the shadow of 9/11, which happened about 8 months before this, right? 8-9 months before this. So it was like a couple of years late, before we saw that incident. So this actually kind of had this Obama era optimism kind of going, like the future's going to be great kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say probably good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you had.
Well, that would have been George Bush at the time.
Yeah, it was Bush, but it was made while Obama was president, right? I guess.
No, it was George.
Obama didn't come in until 2008.
Oh right, so who was Clinton? I meant Clinton.
No, Bush was in.
No, it was Bush.
Bush was in 2000. Yeah. 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So it came out 2002. Okay, whatever. Fine. So that time. Fine. So then he runs with
the. Actually, does make sense because Bush wanted to spy on his own people, so this doesn't make sense. So let's.
They all
that's also
spy on their own people. Perhaps the only one who doesn't is the current president, right? They're all spy on their own. I'm sure the current one does.
Well, he's been spied on, hasn't he? So
I think they all spy on their own people. So anyway, he makes it to his wife's house with the precog. And this is where I think the pacing goes off, but it has a truly beautiful scene. I did see, again, I'm in floods of tears at this scene where she talks about the life that his son would have had while she's sitting in his room. And you see these little moments, when he gets married, and and you get to feel that loss, that incredible loss of a life. I don't know what that is, and I get this. The pacing goes off the rails here, but it's okay because that's so freaking good, right? It's such an incredible piece of filmmaking, in this basically popcorn chase movie. It's a really smart popcorn chase movie. So Tom Cruise is then finally captured. They put the halo on him. Not sure why that's such a bad thing. They're all very upset about having the little halo things put on them. Don't know why.
Looks like it knocks it out.
It's freaky how they're putting the halo thing on them. They're holding it with two hands. They're just coming at you. It does look if that's coming at you, you would. They just right though. Nobody likes the halo. Yeah.
Nobody likes the halo. So at the same time, we basically work out what the whole mystery is of the movie. We explained it where. The guy in charge of pre-crime, where is it? Max von Sydow, don't we find him? There, this guy. He's worked out a way to game the system. The mother of the precog, who was this junkie, got herself clean, and she wants her kid back, which would end the whole pre-crime thing before it starts. So he pays somebody to kill her, knowing that he's going to be killed, that he's going to be caught by pre-crime because they get caught. And then at the moment when the crime is supposed to happen, he commits the crime, and it looks like it's one of these echoes, right? It's a way of gaming the system, and he's the only person who's ever worked out how to do it. And then basically, I kind of feel the movie is out of breath at that point, right? And you get to the finale, but it's like another 10-15 minutes where it's a big Hollywood ending where everyone's cool, everyone's like rejoices, but like it is a Hollywood ending, but I really love it. The last frame of it, and we can go back and get bits I skipped because I skipped a lot. The last frame of it, he's back. He's got his life back together. He's back with his wife, and she's pregnant again. Which again, it's very odd, but I loved it. I like that payoff at the end, which I thought was very sweet. So yeah. So what does anybody have to say about this the last half hour of the movie? It's Dan. Let's start with you.
I thought it was pretty brilliant, really. I mean, it all escalated perfectly. I thought it was all really well judged. And him. I mean, Max von Sydow plays a great villain, but this character's quite complex. You don't feel any sympathy for him, far from it. But he plays it beautifully. It never lurches into another character altogether. Like, the mask never comes off. It's a completely believable other side to the same guy, and I love that about it. Tom Cruise does get better and better throughout this. The epilogue with him and his wife back together, I found that quite difficult to believe and to accept, that she would go from being even look at him to expecting another child by him. I thought it's one thing for them to have an understanding and to care for one another, but I found that a little hard to swallow.
It's very saccharine, but I kind of just liked it. It just made me feel.
I can live with it.
I agree with that on that one. I actually found that hard to believe as well, to be honest, because she left him because he couldn't get over the fact that he blamed himself for the son. So yeah, that scene was a little bit.
Well, you know what? I think
it was nice. They wanted to give the audience a bit of a payoff, and I suppose kind of like redemption for Tom Cruise, wasn't his character that he was able to, get his life back. I think that's what that kind of symbolized there, because he was a bit of a junkie and a bit, obviously he lost his son. He went down a spiral, and he had this. Everybody had this vision that he was perfect, but you get to see his flaws when he's not in pre-crime. So to see that at the end, it kind of is like that his character went full circle. He got that redemption kind of arc, if you know what I mean. Yeah. He got his life back on track, got back with his wife, and they're having a baby. But yeah, Dan, I do agree with you though. If there was a bit more indication during the movie, like if they left a little bit more, I know he meets his wife near the end of the movie, but if they had her popping in through the movie, like I know they had where she was at the drinks session and all, where the Max van Snowden's character is getting the bullets, he's retiring. This is what this is actually all about. He doesn't want to retire. So he wants pre-crime to screw up so he can stay on, be the director, and actually he'll be the man to fix it. But he's the one that's
For all that I've just said about that, though, Noel, it's still a lot more believable than the couple in What Dreams May Come that we had a few weeks.
Well, in the book, it was meant to be a coup. The army was supposed to be the ones trying to uncover the flaws within pre-crime, and then they could use it as. They could expose it and then swoop in and do a military coup.
All right.
And the wife issue, I think, was she was supposed to be having an affair.
Oh.
And it was supposed to be a conspiracy between her and the army guy. I think that was how it was supposed to be.
Well, I'm glad they done it this way. instead.
So problem being, what was your thoughts on the last half hour of this movie, the ending of this movie?
Yeah, I agree. It kind of, we've seen it now, we've done it all. Kind of dragged. I think, yeah, like you said at the start, shave of 30 minutes off. It's kind of a bit like the ending of Lord of the Rings. The Fellowship of the Ring. It's like, it's finished now. Oh no, here we go. It's more. It's finished now. No.
At that point, after they catch him, right, and they put him in the weird prison thing. Yeah, it basically out of steam, but they still got to wrap it up. They got to finish it up, right? And you just feel like, we're kind of going through the motions, and it's okay. Let's just get this movie done.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, right. Father Miller, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, the thing is, this was about the same length as Cloud Atlas, I think, wasn't it?
No, Cloud Atlas.
No, less time.
Yeah, Cloud Atlas is a good half hour longer.
Okay. Well, I mean, this one, this didn't feel, this one didn't feel like, okay, the half hour probably could have been done away with, but still, I thought it went pretty fast. Yeah, I mean, the pace was pretty good.
Look, any gripes about this movie for me are minor, right? There's totally minor. It's a very serviceable movie, and again, it's a movie that before long is going to be one of those black and white Sunday movies that you put on. That you did that's on BBC Two, whatever way we get entertainment
it's a film. It's one of those It's one of those films you can put on and be happy that you're watching it, rather than oh God, not this again.
So it's basically this Casablanca feels like this kind of the same. We're in the same vein. It's just entertaining, interesting, good. It's just listen, but the quality of people working on it, I think, outshines the actual subject matter, which is actually pretty good in of itself, but the quality of people working on it just shines through, right? I think that's what sells it.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, it's a really good standout from Spielberg. I mean, for all the many sort of flaws of the Spielberg's kind of idealism that crept in towards his sort of later period, I think this is a much more serviceable film than some of his more sort of brighter science fiction attempts. AI, I'm looking at you.
I think from this era is with a Spielberg film. This era is AI. I really love that movie. Which again,
well, I would have preferred Kubrick's. I would have preferred Kubrick's full completed.
For me, it was like a real fusion of Kubrick and Spielberg. Yeah. By the way, there's a lovely little nod to Blade Runner in the first 5 seconds of this movie, where it's the opening beat of the theme tune is very Blade Runner-esque. I was like, sounds like exactly Blade Runner. Fine. So listen, I think this one is a bit of a thumbs up all round. I'm going to change the format for next week about the movie we're picking next week. I'm not giving you a choice, but I'm giving you a question. See, again, on Friday night is a Jewish New Year. It brings a very holy time of the year. There's 10 days. The 10 days of repentance is how it's translated. So for the movie for this holy time, I'm picking what is my most spiritual and religious movie I can think of. Now, let's go around the panel and see if anybody can guess what it is before I reveal. So, Father Miller, what would you think my choice would be?
Fiddler on the Roof?
Fiddler on the Roof, okay. I do like Fiddler on the Roof. I do like a bit.
It's not Yentl, I know that much.
Listen, guys, I don't think this is going to be a movie that we think, and I think we should think outside the box because this is Rabbi. So
Santa Claus the movie.
I'm going to say Flash Gordon.
Okay, interesting. Problem being, what's your thought on the matter?
I'm just hoping it's not like that Mel Gibson Christ movie. I really don't think you'd pick that one, Rabbi.
It's not what the better said in the private chat, but that's wonderful.
Anybody on this panel like the Passion of the Christ? I won't ask Todd or Miller, obviously, because the cat.
Well, I mean, I've seen it. It's probably been 10 years since I've seen it, but I don't need to see it again.
I've still not seen it.
That's fair enough. It would be
Maybe
interesting.
the last temptation of Christ.
Okay.
Go on, what is your movie?
I do like
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
I love the Peter Gabriel soundtrack to that. I've got that. That's amazing.
I will say I will not participate in that one.
Wait, Dan, what's your guess?
If you've said spiritual, it's when you say spiritual and religious that I'm completely lost. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay. Are you ready for the big reveal? What I think is the most spiritual and religious movie, one of the most spiritual religious movies I could think of. It is, of course.
Oh,
And I'm not even joking. I'm telling you the truth.
Did I say it's going to have boobs in it?
It's a religious movie, and I'll explain when we watch it.
I'm a precog guy. I mentioned Uma Thurman. There you go.
Exactly. So are we excited about this or not excited?
Yeah, very much so, because I've been planning to rewatch this for a long time. So yes, I'm
not a big Tarantino fan. It was okay. It's not my kind of thing. Yeah, okay. It's got Uma.
I like Tarantino, but I can never get through this one.
No?
Really? Oh man!
Yeah, I mean it's been years since I
prefer Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is actually one of
Jackie Brown's better
one. That is the worst Tarantino movie.
I know they say it is, but I really like that one.
I love Django and I love Inglourious Basterds.
Rabbi, you claim to be a Tarantino film, and you actually think Jackie Brown is Tarantino's worst movie. I'll tell you what Tarantino's worst movie is. It's Death Proof. That stupid movie.
I like that as well.
I prefer Death Proof to Jackie Brown.
No, don't get me wrong. I personally like the way he did it. Black and white at the start, and then halfway through the movie, he kills off the cast and we get a new cast, right? I did like it, but it is considered his worst movie, and I'd have to agree.
What about Hateful Eight? Hateful Eight is not the
I've not seen that one yet.
No, I haven't seen that one either.
Reservoir Dogs, that was my favourite.
Oh, what? Sorry?
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs. That's a darn good movie. That is a darn good movie.
I love
Fine. So, okay, now we have what to look forward to next week.
Great.
So fine. Again, I think I think this is time to sign off. It's as I said, it's Friday night. The weekend has started. We hope you will go to everybody's channel. Go click below. Everybody's links to everybody's channel is down below. I'm sure.
Are we not doing a rating? No. Are we not going to do a rating?
We can do a rating. Fine. Father Miller, what's your
ratings?
I give it an 8.
Okay. Noel.
Well, it's obvious what I'm going to give it 10.
A 10. Problem being.
I'll go with Father on this 8.
8. Okay. Dan. What do you want to be
thinking about this one? I can see it on his face. He's really thinking about it.
I really am, because I think, oh God, if it was all as good as the last half, I would give it an 8, maybe even a 9, but it isn't all as good as that. But I'm going to give it an 8 anyway, because Noel has sort of convinced me about a few things that I hadn't seen in it before. So I'll give it an 8, a generous 8.
Okay, so I'm sticking to my guns. I was going to go 7.5. I'm sticking with 7.5. I think it's a solid movie. I don't see me watching it again in the next 20 years. You know, I can maybe if I have grandkids in about 15 years, right?
For me, it's one of those films. If it's on telly, I'll watch it.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Get swept up in it again, yeah.
Definitely.
But again, listen. 15 years from now, that's going to be gone. You know, it'll be this. There's no there's going to be no program TV. It's all going to be on demand. Netflix is going to take over the world. Yeah, but of course we will all be living in caves and subjugated to our giant cockroach overlords. Yeah, in the new future when they mutate from the next virus and take over the world. And I hope they do better with it than we do.
Yeah. So listen, I just want to thank you again for picking this movie. I really enjoyed this movie vault. It's great. I love when we get a movie that we all kind of. You know, everybody has their issues with it, but I do think everybody has given it.
Very much.
It deserves that good score. Listen, in 20 years' time, we might have a different opinion about this movie. It mightn't be as, we look back 20 years.
Well, the way things are going now, it will be even better. We'll appreciate it a lot more.
Living in that world, because we probably be in a worse one.
Yeah, but listen, on the bright side, if we are whatever world we're living in, you know, the world that the people who run Hollywood now are going to be living in is going to be. If you ever seen the movie Coming to America, right?
Yeah.
You have a little bit of a sequel to Trading Places when you see the rich people are living in the street. So that is where the CEO of Disney and Warner and everybody is going to be 20 years from now, probably maybe 20 weeks from now. Wouldn't be that surprised. Fine. Yeah. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight on video. Thank you. Panel. And everybody have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.